From the Tree. We're your hosts, Danielle
and Michelle.
Our podcast combines genealogy, history, true crime, and storytelling to uncover the lesser-known, sometimes darker stories in ancestors' lives. Because every tree has shadows and we find them. This week, we are focusing on the dark genealogy theme of paranormal. You know, we're heading up to October here, getting close to Halloween. Also, the Day of the Dead is approaching us, so we thought, what better of a theme to try out this season? So, I'm going to go first. Yep. So, Michelle, you don't know what I chose for my story, but as soon as I start talking, you will quickly realize and probably understand why I chose this. So, nice. Because this one does have a tie to our family.
Oh.
So, all right. So, the line between hysteria and the paranormal has always been paper thin. One is born from belief and the other from the need to explain it. Salem wasn't just a witch hunt. It was a haunting of the human mind. And centuries later, the echoes still whisper in our family trees. Haunted not by ghosts, but by the emotional energy of terror and ingest. Mass hysteria and the paranormal are deeply intertwined because we call the supernatural often grows out of a collective fear and belief. And these events, they don't just live in our, textbooks, as I'm sure you learned about in school at some point, but they live specifically in our family record. She wasn't just a victim of the Salem witch trial. She was our 9 times great aunt. So,
nice.
May have mixed up on the 9. It could have been 8, could have been 10, but I'm sticking with 9.
She's on the tree.
She's on the tree. So this October, we're not chasing ghosts. We're remembering one. Her name was Rebecca Nurse, and this story still haunts us. So do you know where I'm going with this? Have you?
Yep. I remember.
And I'm sure you have lots of information you've learned along the way, too. So, if you've ever traced your family tree, you know that feeling, that moment when you see a name come off the page and you're like, oh my gosh, I've learned about this in history and we actually share the same blood. It's a pretty interesting feeling, whether they did something good or bad. It's a cool feeling. So Rebecca Nurse was born Rebecca Town in Yarmouth, England in 1621. So I'm going way back. I've never done a story this far back.
That's why it's like 9, 10.
Exactly. Yeah. So her family sailed across the Atlantic town to Massachusetts Bay Colony, settling in what was then Salem Village, now known as Danvers. Rebecca married Francis Nurse, a respected woodworker and landowner, and together they raised 8 children on a farm surrounded by forest, faith, and as it turns out, fear. So by every account, Rebecca was kind, gentle, deeply religious, the very picture of what a good neighbor would be, and honestly, the last person anyone would imagine would have been accused of witchcraft. So, but in, 1692, that fear had its own mindset, I guess, and soon, even the most righteous were not safe. I just can't even imagine living at that time period. It would have been wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. So, everything, it started off with whisper, as most hauntings end up doing, whether by a ghost or not. But in the home of Reverend Samuel Paris, 2 young girls began to convulse, scream, and claim invisible spirits tormented them. Doctors, of course, had no answers, so the community found one, the witchcraft. And at first, the first accused were outcasts. People in the community, one, the enslaved woman Tituba, the beggar Sarah Good, and the sickly Sarah Osborne. But the panic didn't, just stay there. It spread like wildfire, consuming friends, neighbors, and even people of the church. And then the day came when the warrant for Rebecca Nurse came out. So it was said that when her name was read aloud, the entire village gasped, like they were saying, how could they? Rebecca is the most Christian of Christian faith. But again, I feel like we know from COVID, fear is contagious, and it really spreads. So, there was mentions of old grudges over land, jealousy, and I'm sure even at that time, politics, just everything that just fuels that fire. And people saw what they wanted to see or what they feared to see. So even Rebecca's own sister, I guess another ancestor, Sarah Cloyce, was later accused as well. So
were they both married at that point?
Yeah, you'll see just how old she was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when hysteria took hold of the town, it just, again, it went like wildfire. So it came to the trial, and the courtroom was crowded. Rebecca stood frail but composed. She was 71 years old at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Just imagine that.
Was her husband alive?
Yeah. She was partially deaf at the time as well, trembling. And before her in the court were the afflicted girls screaming and collapsing at her sight. So the judge took it as proof that she possessed those dark powers, and, she couldn't, note was that she couldn't even hear the acquisition clearly because of just how old she was. But then, when she did speak, she was very calm, and she quoted to say, "I can say before my eternal Father, I am innocent, and God will clear my innocency." So for a brief moment, it seemed her courage might prevail. The jury, after a long deliberation, returned a verdict of not guilty. The courtroom erupted. People cried, clapped their hands, but then those afflicted girls fell into a violent fit again. So the judges claimed the jury that had misunderstood the questions, and under pressure, the jury reversed its decision, and Rebecca Nurse was condemned to hang. So really, that line between justice and hysteria, just in a second, because,
They flipped their mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
I forgot that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, on July 19th, 1692, Rebecca Nurse was taken to Gallows Hill with 4 other women. Witnesses said that she met death with grace, praying until the very end, and even the governor had planned to grant her reprieve. But fear spoke louder than reason at that point in time, and after her execution, it is said her family crept through the night to recover her body and secretly buried her on the Nurse homestead. So from what I was reading, obviously these people were hung and then just kind of left in that Gallows Hills area. So there she rests on the homestead, surrounded by her descendants. That ground still standing in Danvers, and I know our family has talked about trying to get there at some point soon, so hopefully we make that happen. But I'm just told the museum at that homestead just has a lot of knowledge, and it's really interesting history. I've only been to Salem once years ago, and it was definitely interesting at the time. I prefer to go when it's probably not so crowded in October. But so we're talking about paranormal. So visitors, have reported some hymns carried in the wind, or the faint whispers of a woman's voice near her old window saying, "I'm innocent." So whether or not you believe in ghosts, it's honestly impossible to go there and not feel something.
Right.
Because there's so many emotions. So now we're going nearly 2 centuries later. Rebecca's descendants gathered to give her the dignity she was denied. So on July 30th, 1885, I found an article from the Boston Evening Transcript that was reporting the dedication of the Rebecca Nurse Monument in Danvers, once Salem Village. So the ceremony began in the same church that had once excommunicated her. The minister spoke of faith, justice, and redemption. The hymns rose from the pews where fear once had echoed, and then the crowd walked in solemn procession to the Nurse family burial ground. And there, a monument of polished quincy granite stood waiting beneath a right shroud. When unveiled, the stone revealed the words of poet John Greenleaf Whittier. I know, you like poetry.
I do.
So, I'm talking old times here because it's 1885. So its quote says, "O Christian martyr, who for truth could die, when all about thee owned the hideous lie. The world, redeemed from superstition's sway, is breathing freer from thy sake today." Then the Reverend bore Rebecca's own words, saying, quote, "I am innocent, and God will clear my innocency." So that monument was just a marker. It was a family's action of redemption and an apology carved in stone. Reverend Fielder Israel reminded those gathered that, quote, "she was not executed for sin, but sacrificed to superstition." And I actually found this photo from that time period when they first got out the monument. Let me see if I can pull it up really quick. It just shows you the time period, which is so neat. Let me get it here. I'll post this for everyone.
Oh wow, that's
It's like
lot
a black
of
and white
people.
picture near the
Wow.
monument, all sitting down in like chairs. You could see all of their like old clothing.
Yeah, they're all dressed in black.
Yeah.
In mourning. Yeah,
Isn't that cool?
that is really nice.
So, obviously, when I make it there, I will stop by that monument for sure. So, kind of back to the Salem witch trials, it ended months later, but not before 19 people were hanged, and one man, Giles Corey, was pressed to death with stone.
What?
Yeah, and in 1711, the colony reserved all the convictions. So Rebecca's family received a small restitution, and her name was legally cleared. But for descendants like, us, history doesn't really erase her story just because at one point in time they cleared her. It's hard to think that, what her children would have felt, her husband, just her neighbors. It's a lot. So, kind of what does this have to do with paranormal, the theme? Maybe everything, because there's history, mystery. Salem, has these witches that just came out of a belief in contagious spirit around them, I guess. Rumors were part of that. And again, they might not just be ghosts, but it's like a true haunting of the past or of history. So she wasn't, Rebecca was not a witch. She was a mother, a wife, a believer, a victim of fear. More than 3 centuries later, her story still kind of warns us about superstition, just to think about that and how that works. And, as the Day of the Dead comes approaching, we light a candle, not to summon the ghost, but just to remember her truth. And, these are the stories that we want to carry on in our generation to our children so they can keep telling her story. So there was lots and lots of research, books, articles out there on this. Like it was hard for me to try to stay on a lane because there was just so much knowledge. But I did make a note. I've yet to read it because my aunt has it. But it's a book called A Salem Witch, The Trial, Execution, and Exoneration of Rebecca Nurse. It's written by Daniel A. Gagnon. So for anyone out there who likes reading, that might be a cool book to check out.
Yeah, a little deeper dive, right?
Yeah, and another bucket list item for us. So
yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, that's me. I'm curious to see what you got into.
All right, so mine, I was thinking, you hear ghost stories and legends a lot of from the Appalachians.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I want to go a little bit into areas I've never learned or, didn't get much history lessons about. So this one is in 1897.
Oh.
So, before the turn of the century here. We're in West Virginia. Specifically, it's Greenbrier County. This is, wintertime. So this is on the chilly Saturday morning, January 23rd, 1897. So a young neighbor of Shu, his name was quite long. So we're talking about the husband first. Okay. So his name is, get this, Erasmus Stribling Edward, quote, Trout Shrew. Shu. It's like S-H-U-E. So I'm going to say Shu.
Okay. And it's probably one of those things where you look in the newspaper and you saw it spelled 12 different ways. If you even got the right last name.
So they either mostly refer to him as Trout. So that's what
Let's go with that, yeah.
I'm going to call him Trout. Okay? Okay. So Trout is the husband. He was newer to the county. He lived in a homestead in an area called Droop Mountain, which borders both Pocahontas and Greenbrier County.
Pocahontas?
So, yeah, right? Cool, huh? So he was living with his new wife. Her name, also pretty different, Elva Zona Heister Shu. So she was referred to as Zona. Zona. So They were living in a small home near the Livesay Mill. So he was working there as a blacksmith, and he was actually, doing pretty good work, and she was working as a homemaker in the house in that smaller community. So let's see here. So we're back to the morning. So they had a young neighbor. So Shu had run into him while he was running errands, and he sent the boy back to his home to ask Zona if they needed any eggs, which, okay. So the boy gets to the house, and he called for her from outside. She didn't come. So then he went inside and found her dead.
Oh, boy.
At the bottom of the stairs in the house. So the boy, it was reported he ran to tell his mother, Martha, what he had found. And then they finally got word to Trout that something bad had happened to Zona, and he had hurried back home and found her dead. So there were some onlookers, that reported that Trout was acting, inconsolable, and he was telling everyone to leave the house, and a Dr. Knapp was called. He was like the local doctor. He was called to come to the house. So an hour or two elapsed before the doctor arrived, and during that time, Trout had clothed Zona in a high-necked collar and a large veil, and was
If you could just see my eyebrows right now, they're very...
Okay. And then, bows and things under her chin, and then he moved her body to the bed. So...
Okay, maybe to give her more peace or give her the right...
Sure.
What she
Let's go with
deserved.
that for now.
Okay.
So this, that's what the doctor was thinking. He
Okay.
did not seem to arouse any suspicion in the doctor. He did try to resuscitate her. However, it was clear that she was not going to make it. She was already dead. Upon his initial examination, he stated that the cause of death, okay. So there's some controversy on this.
Okay.
So in the actual vital records that I looked at, it says that it was from childbirth. Okay?
Okay.
In all the newspapers, they were saying the doctor had said it was due to heart disease or everlasting faint.
Did the record show she had a kid?
No. There was no birth. I don't know where childbirth came from in the records, but that's what it says. If you look,
vital
it's
records,
on the vital record book said childbirth.
Interesting.
So I don't know where the disconnect was there. Maybe
just human error, really, at that time when you're writing in books.
Yeah. But the newspaper was harping on heart disease.
Okay.
So, that's what I said. The death book said it was childbirth. So they had been treating Zona for weeks with some ailment, but there was no record of that. That's what the doctor's signature had listed on the official record. But
a little suspect.
yeah. So after the body was supposedly fully examined, it was taken to the family's home and prepared for a wake. And the Trout really wanted a prompt burial. So the mother came. Her name is Mary Jane Robinson Heister. She expressed that she was feeling like Trout had done something to her daughter. She was just not comfortable. He was acting really strange. He wouldn't let people come near the body. He would always be really close to the casket, and people were starting to notice that her neck had an unnatural look. So it was loose and wobbly. That's what actually someone put in there.
Okay, descriptive, I guess.
Okay, but how are you? I don't know how that would even be.
I mean,
considered.
also, do these people see deceased bodies? Who knows? Maybe it's just a part of the natural.
I don't know. Maybe her head was tilted to the side after someone
tied her with a bow too, right? Or something?
Yeah. There were bows under her chin. So I don't know. I'm thinking I've been to wakes, but you're not touching the cat. You're not. I don't know how they would know it was wobbly
And loose.
That's what they said, though.
Okay,
so
we'll take their word for it.
And then they were saying that a bruise had appeared on her cheek.
Okay.
Seemingly out of nowhere, but the body does weird things.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure that was even real, but. So there was talk going around, news travels fast, that Trout and his bad temper and his odd actions around the wake and funeral, it seemed to be an unfortunate circumstance after all.
Really?
So, okay. So we get to, there's a lot of talk going around, but, the mother, Mary Jane, she wasn't satisfied with this conclusion. She felt that, in her soul that something bad had happened to Zona. So she started praying, and this is her quote: "I prayed to the Lord that she might come back and tell me what had happened, and I pray that she might come herself and tell on him." So according to Mary Jane, she began to have visions where Zona appeared to her and told her the following. So this was a quote she said was
from the mother.
Ghost.
Okay.
This was the ghost of the daughter talking to the mother. "He was mad that he didn't have no meat cooked for supper, And he said, and she said, I had plenty. Don't you think that he was mad and just took down all my nice things and packed them away and ruined them? She came 4 times and 4 nights. But the second night, she told me that her neck was squeezed off at the first joint, and it was just as she told me.
Oof.
So, yeah.
So we got mad because
there was no
dinner.
meat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposedly she was making like jams or pies, and dinner was not up to standard.
Okay.
So, and I'm just thinking strong blacksmith, strong,
it's
you
possible.
know, just.
So people knew him to be angry and to have a temper.
There's a backstory. We'll get there.
Oh, good. Okay.
I always got an extra little.
Pull it out of your pocket.
Dig a little deeper. You know,
Love it.
They've always got a history
Oh, they
of
do.
some violent behavior.
They do.
So, after her visits from Zona, Mary Jane went to the courthouse and talked to the Greenbrier's prosecuting attorney, John Alfred Preston. She informed him that something was just not right, and she begged him to look further into her daughter's death. So, there was an inquest made, and they actually exhumed her body. Yeah.
Oh.
They were like, okay, let's take a deeper dive.
How far? Do you know how far, like, in advance they did that? Was it months,
It
weeks?
was within the same year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this was, I think, later in the same year. I want to say almost the summer.
Okay.
Yeah, the trial was in July
Oh, okay.
of 1897, and this started in January. So within 6 months.
Okay.
So once Zona's body was exhumed, she had another autopsy that was more in depth, and it was discovered that she suffered from a broken neck. So a finding that had been overlooked. Trout was present when they were exhuming the body, and his actions were once labeled suspicious. And as a result of the findings, Trout was immediately placed under arrest for Zona's murder. So, yeah.
I got questions. Like, I'm assuming the mother was already going to the court or the police saying, like, I think it's Trout. Why would you let Trout be in the room when that was happening? Maybe just, I guess, to see his reaction.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe, or maybe he just showed up and was like, oh, no, what's happening?
And this could go 2 ways. The mother could have been just relaying what she thought.
Yep.
Or maybe, I don't know, for those who believe in ghosts, maybe that actually happened.
Her testimony, so supposedly she had never been to this house because they were recently married and they were living in a different town than the mother. So she had never been to their home. So I don't know if the daughter had described in letters or if it was
how he is behavior.
So, but she described in the house where it happened and what, there was a spot.
Details.
Yeah, there was a spot of blood on a fence or something that she told that was there.
Really?
So there were details that she shouldn't have known that she did know.
Interesting.
So
listen, I'm kind of open-minded, so
yeah, me too.
I'm not closed off.
But this case is we'll go. It's one only has this happened before.
That
one time only. This
ghost
case. Yes, this was ghost
arrested
testimony.
the murderer.
Ghost testimony.
That's great.
Not only, yeah, we'll keep going here. So, at his trial, he took stand, okay, but it was met with some unease. So, it was reported in the Greenbrier Independent, July 1st, 1897, that Shrew was on stand all day Tuesday afternoon. He was given free rein and talked at great length, was very minute and particular in describing unimportant instances. I can't say that.
It's always a word that gets a little stumbling.
Incidences.
There we go.
Said the prosecution was all spite work. Entered a positive denial of the charge against him. Vehemently protested his innocence, calling God to witness. Admitted that he had served time in the pen. All right, we're going to go back to his.
Okay.
We're going to go back to his history. He did, he admitted that he had been in jail before, but he declared that he dearly loved his wife and appealed to the jury to look into his face and then say if he was guilty. His testimony manner made an unfavorable impression on spectators. So he did not help himself.
Can you just imagine having been on that? I just think about going to trial, like having been one of the people who sat there and watched. And you think about where we are today in society where like a lot of these things are in the news.
Yeah.
They're being recorded. So, 100 years from now, are people going to be able to pull up actual videos?
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because these are reportings of it. Were they in the room? Are they getting secondhand, information on it? But so when Mary Jane Hester was called to testify, that's Zona's mom, she shared the experiences of her daughter contacting her from beyond the grave to tell how, she had been murdered by trout. She gave detailed descriptions, like I said, about the house, about the land, and she had never been there. Since she was like a well-known woman in the town, she was a Christian, she was known to be very pious, so her testimony was accepted as truth. Whereas,
Crazy.
This newcomer kind of violent man was, they're like, okay, buddy.
He's already got a negative painted picture about him, so there's not really a lot to dig out of there.
Yeah. So he ended up being, after the jury heard both sides, they only recessed for an hour.
Did he declare he was not guilty?
Oh, yeah. That's what he was like saying, that, I swear on God, and I didn't do anything. I love my wife. Sure.
Just makes me go back to the boy with the eggs. Did he plan that so that the boy was the one who found her?
Of course.
So manipulative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sneaky.
And acted like, oh, no. And then he dressed her up and covered her neck so it wouldn't
hide the evidence.
The marks.
And then shame on, the autopsy at the time.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate that they had to not see that right away.
Yeah, exhume the body. But maybe he was treating her for something. Or maybe he was just a quack. I'm not
Could be.
Not 100% on that either. So they only were in recess for an hour, and then they came back with a guilty verdict. Murder in the first degree.
Quick, yep.
So here's the Greenbrier Independent again. So July 8th, so only a week into trial here. Through the evidence, though it was entirely circumstantial, the verdict meets general approval as all who heard the evidence are satisfied of the prisoner's guilt.
That's crazy. The ghost.
So this is the only trial,
That's
only
cool.
Conviction that a ghost testimony had given a guilty verdict to the defendant. Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
Yep. There's a sign in this town and about it. Yeah. There's a whole blog about it that I've been, quoting out of. So it's really interesting. They've pulled up the author of this blog.
I would never ever work
Arabeth
nowadays.
Belasco. So if you want to read even more about it, it's on the Greenbrier Valley History Unraveled blog.
And then it makes you wonder, obviously the ghost came to the mom, but does the mom have any spiritual, did she ever have any moments in life where that happened, where she felt like she could, or was this like a one and only for her time?
It's probably one and only.
Yeah.
I don't know. But we can go back and look at his background a little more.
Yeah, let's see why he was in prison before.
Okay. And so he didn't have just one wife. So Miss Zona was his third wife.
You seem to have a...
Okay.
You seem to touch into these
Yeah, I didn't
often.
mean to find that one there. But he had married... her name was...
the first wife?
The first wife.
Okay.
Her name was Alice Esteline Cutlip Shoe McMillan.
What's going on with all these long names?
Well, she was lucky enough. She had a daughter with him.
Okay.
And she actually ended up divorcing him because there were accounts of him hurting her or being aggressive. So he was not around very often. And
good for her, because that wasn't a common thing in that period of time to divorce.
Right. Well, while he was married to his first wife was when he ended up in jail for stealing a horse. So he was in jail for 2 years
For stealing a horse.
So she ended up, getting a divorce from him, and that was the best thing for her in all reality. Because then there was a marriage. So that his first marriage was in 1885. Then his second marriage was in 1894. In June, he married Lucy Ann Tritt. But that did not go so well.
Don't tell me poison. You always come back to poison, too.
No.
Okay, good.
Well, she was just, there's no record of her death. But she dies in a year later in 1895. Within the first year of their marriage, she's dead. And supposedly they lived on like a more secluded part of Droop Mountain, and like
Was her body found?
I mean, there's a marker for her grave, but there's no like cause of death anywhere. Like I looked in, her name is not in like the death records, the vital records. There's no writing down of what happened to
That's nuts.
poor Lucy.
That's
Yeah. So not only do you have one, like, very much proven that you
did something.
killed your third wife, what happened to your second wife, and why
That's crazy.
was no one concerned about that? Because, you know, you weren't,
You were just out of prison too.
you weren't a great person to your first wife, and now
Right,
you've
you have
had a
reputation.
history.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no wonder why the mother was like, this is
You're
not
not gonna be able
right.
to live
Yeah.
that one down. That's gonna be one you'll like research on the side until you have an answer.
You know me too well.
I do.
I really tried. I looked for quite a few hours on Monday when I had the day
Oh,
off,
yeah.
and I spent too much time.
Oh.
I was really deep into the West Virginia, because that one you have to spell it correctly for it to
okay.
pull up the record. So I was trying many different options for Lucy.
So mystery unsolved for that lady.
Yep, and she was young too. She was less than 20. So
Wow.
it's like, who knows? I just feel bad.
Yeah, and this is when, maybe in his eyes, if something did happen, he got away with it, so it made him even more confident to do something,
Yeah.
to the third wife.
Yeah. So he was in prison only for 3 years. He ended up dying on March 13th, 1900 in the state prison.
Okay.
So he was still in West Virginia. He was only 33.
Oh, wow.
But there's actually a picture that he had drawn while he was in prison. So we can put that up.
What?
Yeah, it's very weird. If you look at it in the background on the right, there is an image. It looks like someone in a casket, and then there's two other figures in the front. There's a man and a woman in the front. It's very weird. It's, like a folk type image. I'll show you.
Yeah, I'm curious if he's like a good at drawing or if it just was like a...
It just looks like the time period. Let's see if I can pull it up here.
So he drew this?
Yeah, he drew it. All right, let's turn this screen around here. So see up here, there's this person in a casket, and then the bodies are
The body's
very simple
odd looking.
form, but the limbs are facing weird directions. I don't know. It's definitely interesting to look at
up for
and
interpretation.
to see someone, some kind of record
Is there
of
actual pictures of... is there pictures of them actually? Like, is that a picture of him that he drew? Like him
I'm
in
not
the
sure. So this is what there's on Find a Grave, is the picture of them.
Oh yeah, unless he's got a drawing that does not look like him in the
But
sketch.
that there's some controversy if that's actually them or not, because
okay.
I think these two people are pretty attractive.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was just helping promote the story. I'm not sure if this is actually a picture of them,
Yeah.
because there's an email, there's a book someone wrote, a historical fiction account of this, but she seems to think this is not them after talking to family members. But
Okay.
I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
it could be them.
We always like a visual.
Yeah.
So, even if it's not them, it's visualizing people of their age at that time period.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, but that sketch is
Interesting, right?
interesting.
There's trees and
He's very boxy looking, his body.
yeah.
We'll post it.
But he's on stilts too, like a chair. I don't.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But anyway, so the ghost testimony of Zona put her murderer in jail, and
The one and only.
sometimes you just gotta listen to the ghosts, I guess.
That's crazy. I love it. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you went ghost because I was really interested in looking up more stories like this, and I'm sure there's tons out there
Right.
because paranormal is such a niche thing for people. But I had to go with our ancestor. But yeah, that was a fun one. Something new that we did. So
Yeah.
we'll definitely have to keep that one in mind for future.
And if you have family ghost stories or some other paranormal things that you've heard, or family members have had visions of other relatives, definitely rate us and let us know, and we'll dig deeper.
Awesome. Well, beautiful. That's us out here, Shadows from the Tree, and Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Catch us next time.